Hi, hello, and welcome to FormFest 2026. In this session, we are going to be building better forms with better AI prompts.
Hey
So,
everyone, welcome to today's session. We're just gonna wait a minute to start. Just let the folks pour in, and then we can quickly start off. Few more seconds, and then we begin. Cool. Let's start, Emily.
okay, yeah, so as I said, you are all very welcome to FormFest 2026. So, in this session, we are going to be building better forms with better AI prompts.
Perfect. And we are here to show you all of that. I am Ayush. I am a product manager here at Form Assembly. I have been working on managing all different AI features that our platform offers, including Fay and File to Web Form. I got to work on Fay from the start, and our goal here was to make it easier for our users to simply use our platform. So happy to be here and share our insights on how to use Fay, how to maximize using its capabilities to your use case, and looking forward to it.
And I am Emily Bradley. So I am a product specialist here at Form Assembly. I work on the email support team. So basically, what that means is anytime you've ever written a case for support, me and my team are there to help you. We are always eager to find out what you're doing with the product and helping you problem solve any issues that you might have. So, just before we fully kick off, I just want to go over the objective of what this workshop is in particular. So, what we want to know is how to get to know the power of Faye, how to use it, the best practices. We'll go over good prompts versus bad prompts. We'll have a little demo for you, and then at the end, if you have any questions, you can type it in the Q&A box, and we will try to address them.
Perfect. So let's talk about what would a good prompt be like. Working with AI is all dependent on the quality of instructions you give it. If you give it generic instructions, the results might surprise you or disappoint you. But if you give it very specific instructions with coherent guidelines, those results will actually match your expectations. So when you're working with Fay, there are most importantly three things that you should focus on. First would be the action. Telling Faye clearly what you want it to do, that is something which makes it easier for Faye to understand what your expectations are. So, for example, if I want Faye to edit an existing form, I should be very specific in terms of what's the form name or even a form ID that, hey, can you edit form XYZ with the name this? This makes it easier for Faye to choose a particular asset, whether it could be a form or a workflow or a connector that it needs to update. So telling Faye exactly what you want it to do is very important. Second would be adding constraints to your prompt. Now, constraints are nothing but guidelines for Faye to operate in. For example, let's say you want to collect details from your end user before admitting them in an hospital. Now, for this initial registration, you just want a form that has basic questions in it, like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 of it. But if you don't give this constraint to Faye, Faye is just going to assume that you are looking for a form that collects all the details about your end user. That means it can make a form that contains 20 fields, 10 fields, 5 fields, and whatnot. So it's very important to provide guardrails to Faye that, hey, I want you to create a form that contains, let's say, 5 data fields, out of which one of them is a drop down, another one is a long text. Can you make sure these questions are coherent enough for my end users to understand? So giving these constraints are very important for Faye to understand what sort of a form, what sort of an asset or an output you're expecting. And the third and most important thing is making it clear to Faye what is the outcome of a form or a workflow you're looking for. For example, if you tell Faye that, hey, I want you to create a contact us form, that is a very generic ask that, hey, create a simple contact us form that contains 5 fields. But if you tell it that, hey, I'm looking to create a contact us form for our students who have taken XYZ class. So giving it the outcome or the context does help Faye to understand what sort of questions, what sort of data fields you would want in your form. And similar to that, it also helps Faye understand what sort of work steps would you be looking for in a workflow. So summing all these three things up, first, action, what is it exactly that you want Faye to do? Second, constraints, what are the parameters within which Faye should be operating, whether it's a few data fields or a lots of data fields, whether it's certain type of data fields you want, such as drop down, radio buttons and whatnot. And then finally, the outcome of the prompt that you're looking for, whether it's helping create a healthcare focused form or a workflow, or a higher education focused form or a workflow. If you provide these three layers in your prompt, Faye would definitely perform better than just giving it a generic prompt about doing something. So now I'm going to pass it to Emily, where she's going to talk about what would be examples of a good versus a bad prompt look like.
Okay, so we'll start off with the bad prompts, and then we'll show you how you can rephrase that to get a better outcome. So a bad example would be build me a form. Instead of saying something like this, it would be better to structure the prompt saying, create a custom support request form with fields for name, email, issue category, in brackets, a drop down, and a description field. This will give a better outcome. The next one would be, a bad example would be, make this form better or fix this form. It's very vague. Go into detail by saying fix this form so that the email field requires a valid email format, the phone number field only accepts numbers, and the form cannot be submitted if required fields are empty. Another prompt is use company colors. So we can make this prompt better by saying apply our brand colors to the form designing using primary blue, including the hex code, for buttons and headers, and light gray for the background sections. So they're just an example of some of the good prompts over the bad prompts. So let's put this into practice. So what we're going to do is we are going to use a dance registration form as an example. We want to build a form for an 80s themed dance event. So I'm going to go and present how we can put these into action in just a moment. So I'm going to start off by asking Faye to build a registration for an 80s themed dance event. And then I'm going to give it a restriction by saying limit the form to ask 5 questions.
And before you submit, Emily, I want to point out one thing is you can always toggle Faye on and off by clicking on this sparky thing on the top right corner.
I'll show you how to do that now. So if you want to have, in sports, sometimes people reach out to us and they ask how you can minimize Faye if you want to have full use of your screen. So as mentioned, it's just this one here. Okay. And it can toggle it on. And then if you want to use it again, you can toggle it on. So going back to the prompt I just asked there, I can go like this. And as you can see, it's starting to work.
So one good practice to point out is when you're working with Faye, let Faye complete its task before you actually start manually making changes to whatever work you're doing. So for example, in this case, as you can see, Faye is right now running and it's creating a form. So if you go ahead and start making changes in, let's say, data field or any other text, then there might be synchronization issues between what Faye has created versus what manual edits you have made. So make sure it finishes. Now that it has finished, now you can feel free to, move around inside the builder and make changes.
Yep, it's also very important to save as you go. So I'm going to save this form before I move on to my next step. It's also good when you're making working with Faye to give it one task at a time in individual prompts. So now that I have the form built, I'm going to say, can you put this into a workflow with a notification to myself. And so as you can see, we've gone from being in the form builder to being into the workflow.
Another good practice when working with Faye is to make sure that the prompts that you're giving, these are atomic in nature. When I say atomic, they are looking to complete one single task. So for example, in our case, as you can see, we first gave it a prompt to create a form. And then once that was done, we were happy with the form created. Then we moved on to creating a workflow. If you're packaging more than one things inside a single prompt, that could be a recipe for disaster. Disaster as in the expectation of you versus what Faye creates might not match. So it's very important to give it one task at a time. That makes it easier for Faye to understand and accomplish it.
And so I'm going to save this. So now that we're in the workflow, I also want to add a Google Steps connector. Step connector.
And as Emily pointed out, after every time Faye completes its actions, you as a user have to manually press on the save button. Our philosophy here is Faye is there to help you out, but not take these critical decisions as to when you want to save your form or your workflow and want the changes to persist. So whatever changes you make using Faye, they will not persist unless and until you by yourself click on the save button. This is to make sure that whatever changes have been made are the ones that you really want to persist.
And so, yeah, it's also important to note that Faye will do about like 90% of the work for you, but you have to go and confirm and make sure you have the right correct authorizations. There should always be a human touch included. So yeah, now we have the workflow. We have our newly built form. We have our notification step, and we have our Google Sheets connector built in. So that's amazing stuff. But before we move on, I want to show you some of the fun stuff or the things that maybe you didn't know that Faye could do. So I'm going to go back into, I almost forgot to save my own form. So I am going to go into my newly created form again.
Oh, Emily, you can ask Faye to open that form for you. Just mention the form ID. Oh, we are here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what you can do is before you go into that, you can just copy the form ID and you can ask Faye to do that as well. It's another option, or you can go here. So I have it here. So what we're going to do is we are going to see how Faye can create a theme. So I'm going to say new theme.
So using this capability of Faye, you can quickly create a theme for your form. It could be based off your company colors, your brand colors. You can also attach a file that contains the colors or even the logo of your company slash organization, and Faye will be able to create a theme out of it. So let's see it in action. Can you create a custom theme for form ID, it is theme, bold flashy colors? Another thing to note with creating a theme is you always need to have a base form on which it can create a theme. So next time you want to create a theme, best practice would be to open a form or mention to Faye that, hey, open this form with ID XYZ and create a theme for it with whatever instruction you want to give it. For example, in this case, we had the form open, it automatically understood along with the form ID that, okay, I need to create a theme which will be applied to this particular form.
Yes, and when you're building the theme, quite often it will start with the colors. And if you're happy with it, you can say yes, and then it can move on to the typography. So as you can see, it's now added this neon pink kind of theme. While that's working, I just want to mention, so when you have had Faye create this, you want to make sure that you click theme, save on the theme, and then you also need to save it onto the form itself. So I'm going to click save. I'm going to say 80s. Save theme. And save it onto the form itself. And just like that, you have should have created a theme. There we go. And save. So there is our little demo there of all the things you can do. So if you have any questions, we have about, or actually before we go on to that, we might just mention all the different things that Faye can also do. For example, you can open a sport ticket with a case ticket with sport. Is there any other ones you want to mention before we move on to questions?
So you can definitely ask questions to Faye regarding number of responses you got on your forms, what was the average time it took to complete a workflow, how many responses have you got since, let's say, last 10 days, last 2 weeks, last few months. So whatever analytical related questions you want, you can ask Faye. Another thing would be if you want to know about more product capabilities inside the form assembly platform, you can ask Faye for that. So for example, if you want to know whether form assembly supports e-signature facility or DocGen facility, or how do you even configure that, you can ask those questions to Faye itself. Another important thing is if you are stuck somewhere and you're not able to, debug your way out of it, you have been working with Faye, and still you're not able to solve for that, you can ask Faye to create a customer ticket for you on your behalf. Another thing in that is you can also ask Faye to initiate a live chat with one of our customer support agents. And if the agent is live, you'll be actually able to have a conversation with our team directly from inside your instance itself. So there are a bunch of things that Faye can do. Feel free to check out our documentation. And yeah, I think we can now open up to answering a few questions.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask some questions, or I'm going to read some of your questions, I should say. So when editing an existing form, would it be best to have Faye add one question at a time, or could you ask to add a group of related questions?
I think adding a group of related questions should be fine. If it's like somewhere between, a couple of questions to 5 or 7, that should be fine. But if you're asking it to add a bunch of questions, I don't know how to define bunch, but bunch could be something as, adding like 10 questions. That becomes too long of a prompt for Faye to execute on it properly. But if it's just a few of them, like, add my name, email, phone number, and address in section this, then that should be fine. If you really want to add like a bunch of questions, then I would say break it down into multiple prompts. That way it would be easier for Faye to understand that.
Okay, and can a user reference a form ID or multiple IDs when working on a workflow?
Yes, absolutely you can. So while working with Faye for workflows, you can simply give it an instruction that, hey, at my first work step, make sure to add form 1, 2, 3. Whereas after the approval work step, make sure the next work step routes to form number 4, 5, 6 or whatever it is. Faye should be able to handle that. But I would also like to add, Faye is gonna perform to, the best of its capabilities, but you as a user have to verify whatever changes it has made. So for example, if you expect it to make sure that there are multiple forms in a workflow and each of them has been correctly configured at each work step, once Faye is done with making those changes, make sure you verify those work steps and then you move on. So yeah, it can do it, but of course, human intervention is always required to make sure the changes are correct and according to your expectations.
Okay. Can we ask Faye if a specific Salesforce field is used in any of our forms?
Yes, we can. And right now, Faye can also help you set up Salesforce prefill as well as Salesforce connector. But the thing is, Salesforce is a huge platform. There are many things that you can do with the connector. There are many use cases our Salesforce connector supports, but not every time Faye will be able to exactly do what you want it to do. So I would recommend starting with a basic thing that you want to accomplish with the Salesforce connector via Faye. And then along the way, keep asking questions that, hey, what if I want to do this or do that? And then go ahead and also manually try to configure it instead of completely being dependent on Faye uh, for that particular use case.
Can you ask Faye to ensure that the form is accessible or works with screen reader?
Yes, you can. So that is another great thing about Faye is you can give Faye custom instructions that, hey, I want you to make this form that is really easy for someone to fill on a mobile device, or make sure to create a form that is very easily readable by a screen reader. So those sort of accessibility issues that you want to take care of, Faye can do that for you, and yeah, that can totally be supported by Faye.
Brilliant. Is Faye included with the enterprise plan, or is there additional charge?
No, Faye is totally free for all our enterprise customers, for our team users. So for our classic platform, Faye is available for teams and enterprises free of cost. For all our Atlas customers, be it Explorer, Teams, Enterprise, it's still free. So it's for no extra charge.
Okay. And can you ask Faye to do regular expressions for validations?
Yes, you can. So another thing about Faye is even if Faye is not able to make those exact changes in the form, you can also brainstorm with Faye. So for example, if you don't know how do you want to set up your regex, you can discuss with Faye that, okay, if I want to accomplish this, what would be the best way for me to do that? Then Faye is gonna, understand your query, is gonna suggest you different options that, hey, these are the things that you can do. And if it's not able to do that manually, if it's not able to do that on its own, it's going to just tell you and guide you that, hey, I think you can go on this particular form setting inside this config and add your regex expression. So Faye should be able to support you there.
Okay. Is it possible to start the Faye form creation based on an already mapped template?
Can you repeat the question? I think I didn't
Yeah.
understand this one.
Is it possible to start Faye from the creation based on an already mapped template? So
I think it can, yeah. So all the existing assets, Faye can read those. So if you have, let's say, a form that has been around for quite some time, you already have a workflow, you already have a template, you can ask Faye to start from there itself. So that should be fine. Yeah.
and I think we've reached all of the questions. Can you make Faye interact with Salesforce Connector, which we've kind of mentioned already? Oh, how to deal with custom code. Can Faye also adjust custom code?
Yes, it can. So you can brainstorm with Faye that, hey, I do want to add this custom code in my form. What should be the code that should be written there? It can help you draft one, and also it can also help you to add it in your form itself. Now, it's your job again, as I said, to verify that the custom code is there at the right location and it works. Faye is just gonna, to best of its ability, try to give you the right code and then guide you on where to add it. If it's able to do it on its own, perfect. But if not, you can always get the code from Faye and then add it on your own on the left side panel where we usually add the custom code for any form.
And can you add conditional questions to a form with Faye? For instance, asking additional questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can add conditionals, you can add additional questions, you can add, all of the functionalities that you see in your form builder, you can ask Faye to do that for you. So for example, if you want to add a new section, if you want to add a drop down, if you want to add a different category of a question, if you want to mention specific elements that should be there inside a drop down. So for example, you want Faye to create a drop down containing name of 10 countries, and these are the countries there. So Faye can configure that drop down for you with those choices that you have mentioned. So all the form builder capabilities that you see, those can be performed through Faye.
Perfect. This is a question. I think it's less necessarily to do with Faye, but we'll ask it anyway. So, can Faye be used to internally build forms and workflows, but not be available for use of customers? So they kind of want to use an internal process. I would say Faye could definitely help build it, but there might be other things such as SAML or different protective ways to use a form to make sure it's only internally, would be my note on that one. And
another thing to point out is we do provide admin control in order to control whether or not your organization wants to use AI functionalities. So at the moment, two functionalities that we have are file to web form and Faye. Both of these could be configured by an admin user, and they can be turned on or off for all the users within an instance. So that is another additional layer of control that we provide our users.
Okay, thanks so much, everyone, for coming to this talk. The next session is just about to get started. So if you want to continue learning about all the different keynotes and workshops, please check out all the other workshops today.
Thanks, everyone. This was super fun. And yeah, we are looking forward to your feedback and how you end up using Faye.